There's this lovely line in the film where Hannah says that she doesn't know how to be in the world. I wonder if you could speak to how that played into your approach to this character.
Yeah, I like that line. I think that she's a woman who, she started out, she experienced tragedy and loss, and she, in trying to cope with that, she turned to drugs and inadvertently made more of a mess. Then that became the problem that she felt that she couldn't escape at a certain point. I think that she is someone who is really, she can't nurture herself. She's really sort of a ghost, just sort of not able to be here, but not quite able to leave, because of the thought of her son, who's there, but she doesn't know how to get back to him. And I thought she was a very moving character in that way. I had enormous compassion for her.
I loved that through her relationship with Tahir, she starts to find that place again gradually. And I love the way it's shot because the depth of field starts to widen. I think Paul did such a fantastic job. When you were beginning to film, did you think at all about the way that it would be shot, the way that this character would be seen as the film went on?
Yeah, we had intentions to push that further, but because of practical constraints, weren't quite able to. The original intention was to film in the summer and then take a hiatus and film in the winter. I had lost a lot of weight for the film for the parts when she was this sort of ghost wandering around who was unwell, and then the idea was to sort of get healthier and come back and be able to open up wider and see more of the city. But we were a little bit more limited because we had to shoot it all in the summer, so we couldn't have quite. It turns out there are a lot more trees in New York City than you would think, with a lot of leaves on them that indicate the season. But Paul tried, that was his intention, and he tried to open it up more so that as the characters could see more of the horizon, the film could as well.
Yeah, we were speaking about that just now, actually, shooting these beautiful parks for a story that is so gritty. To have that backdrop, I think, was very interesting. But then filming these dire snowstorm situations while it was still summer. I wonder how you go to that place where you're actually in physical danger in the snow when it's actually fake snow and it's actually hot out.
Yeah, it's like a memory exercise. You just have to recall those January, days, I suppose.
Well, I think what's also interesting is the film's coming out during the holiday season where it is going to start to get much colder, where I think people are much more compassionate towards people who are actually living on the street. It's a really interesting, I think, parallel to have it timed that way. And I think the film overall, I think, changes the way people view not only people who are immigrants, but also who are living on the streets. And I think right now, more so than ever, I think it's a topic that really needs to be discussed.
I hope so. I hope it has that effect. I know, it'd be wonderful if it did,
I think it's a movie that changes your view, but I think it can evoke gratitude from people. I don't know if you felt that way when you're working on it, to go to this place as this character and be in situations where every day you're maybe on your last leg, if that at all affects the way you just view life in general.
I do, and I do more and more. I mean, I think it's very easy to forget, to be honest with you. I try to be really mindful, and I try to keep perspective. I think that's exposure to what's happening in the world. I think for me it feels important to remain connected in that way, to keep perspective, and have a sense of context.
I understand that you did a lot of research, not just with recovering addicts, but with the Coalition for the Homeless. And with Paul having written the script, but giving you that freedom to influence your character, how did you work together to add the things that you had learned in your research with his vision?
I would bring him ideas. I would say, sometimes just on the day, I have this, and sometimes in advance say, okay, I'd really love this for my props. I'd love, and then some things he just said, sure, you take charge, do what you want, and some things, we talk about scenes, and I'd say, oh, maybe I want her to be kind of inappropriate and wild and abrasive. Maybe she should have, what if I play this whole scene with helium from a balloon, and some ideas I'd bring to him, and he'd say yes, and we'll integrate them, and some didn't work, and we'd try and then abandon. But it was nice to have the opportunity to play in that way and explore and try different things.
There are such great details. I love the moment where she starts speaking French and everyone's just completely shocked.
I like that scene too, and because I like what it says, which is it's about making assumptions. They're making assumptions about her. And you can't do that. We all have complicated stories, and we get people wrong. We get each other wrong all the time, and I think that scene is like kind of an expression of that.
Yeah. Not only do we not know people, but I think, particularly with the homeless population, there is this strange assumption that they're just not doing the right things to get out of that
They deserve it. They're that way for a reason. And in reality, 24,000 kids are homeless. Do they do something to deserve it? I mean, I think that when you think about those numbers, it just becomes easier to say, oh no, I mean, what's happening? What's going wrong? So I think it's. And sometimes the numbers are difficult, and I don't know. I think we're sometimes like hearing individual stories makes it.
Hearing 26,000, I think, is a lot harder to digest than seeing a story about two people, like
right.
in the film,
But it was a wonderful. It was a wonderful project to work on. I thought that he had written, and I think he's made it. He being Paul, a beautiful thing, and it goes to some very dark places, but at the end there is redemption and there's hope, and I think it's I like that story, the story of forgiveness and love.
And there's such a pre-established backstory. She speaks a bit about it throughout, but then we also see, just from that one scene where she calls her father, so much is said in that scene. And it's such a short moment. We get so much about their relationship. How did you approach those scenes where you're communicating so much about this character's past and where she fits in the world with so little?
I like to do a lot of sort of deliberation and like consideration in preparation for a film, so that I'm not doing a kind of generalized impression of sadness or whatever emotion it may be in a scene, but that that everything that whatever I'm saying is referring to very specific things and recalling specific memories, and those are just choices that I make, and then I love that process. But I usually start with gathering information about what is her life on the streets, where did she come from, and then making decisions about when did she start doing drugs, where did she, when did it become more of a habit, when did she leave home, where, and I just make very concrete choices, like how much is she using each day, how much money does she have to make to do that, so what does that mean she has to do specifically, and how many hours, and so I just enjoy that process, so that's pretty much what I do, that kind of work before starting a film, and think about, what the relationships are to each person, so that then by the time I get into the scene, I can just let go of it all, and when I hear people speak, that it kind of recalls all of that.